In order for a jury to return a verdict, that is, to reach a decision in a criminal case, the law provides that there may only be 12 persons on the deliberating jury, and you will note that there are 18 of you. To avoid the need for a new trial if one or more jurors becomes ill or is to be excused for some good reason, we customarily impanel extra jurors at the beginning of a trial, as we did in this case. Because of the anticipated and now actual length of this trial, we impaneled more jurors than are commonly impaneled. However, when you begin your deliberations, the law in Massachusetts is that only 12 jurors can deliberate. Therefore, at the conclusion of my instructions, Mr. McDermott will reduce your number to 12 on a random basis. The jurors not selected to serve in the jury will become the alternate jurors. If you are selected as an alternate juror, please do not feel that your efforts in this case have been wasted, because as I've indicated, it's important that we have extra jurors in case of an emergency. If we did not impanel extra jurors and a juror became ill, or for some other reason had to be excused, we would have to try the whole case all over again with a new jury. In the event that a juror has to be excused once the jury starts deliberating, then an alternate juror will be chosen to take that juror's position, and the jury will be required to start deliberations from the beginning. Therefore, it's important that the alternates not discuss the case with anyone else, including each other. For if an alternate becomes a member of the jury for deliberations, the alternate's views should be his or her own and not be influenced by anyone else. Different states and jurisdictions use different means to select a foreperson of the jury. In some jurisdictions, the jurors select their own person. In Massachusetts, the judge is responsible for selecting the foreperson. A foreperson of a jury has been described as the first among equals. He or she is responsible for organizing the deliberations, communicating with the court if necessary during deliberations, and presenting the verdict following your deliberations. The foreperson has no greater say or vote in the jury's deliberations. However, and in that sense, the juror is equal with all other jurors. I am going to ask the juror seated in seat number 1, your juror number 5, sir, would you agree to be foreperson in this case? I'm going to ask you if you would be foreperson in this case. Thank you. I always appreciate it when people say yes before I tell you what's involved, but thank you very much. All right. So the foreperson will be given the verdict slip setting forth the charges against the defendant. 12 jurors must agree. So, all right, so I skipped the line. When you return to the jury room to deliberate, the court officers will deliver to you all the exhibits in this case, as well as the verdict slips that you'll be using in returning your verdict. So the foreperson will be given the verdict slip setting forth the charges against the defendant. 12 jurors must agree before you have a decision to any specific charge. That means that to find the defendant guilty, all 12 must agree. To find the defendant not guilty, all 12 must agree. You should consider each indictment individually and continue deliberating until you've reached a final verdict. You should not begin deliberating until all 12 jurors are together in the jury room, and should cease deliberating if any one juror is not present in the jury room. It is important that you not communicate with anyone outside the jury room about the deliberations or about anything concerning this case. Further, I remind you that no juror is better qualified to determine the truth of the facts in this case, to dispute or to deliberate on a verdict solely because of education, background, or experience. The parties and I have chosen each of you as fair and impartial jurors, and your voices have equal weight. To reach a unanimous verdict, each juror must agree. Jurors have a duty to consult with one another and to deliberate with a view to reaching an agreement, if it can be done without violence to individual judgment. At the same time, each juror must decide the case for himself or herself, but only after impartially considering the evidence with his or her fellow jurors. Don't hesitate to re-examine your views and change your opinion if convinced it is wrong. But no juror should surrender an honest conviction to the opinion of fellow jurors simply for the purpose of reaching a verdict. Although how you conduct your deliberations is up to you, I urge you not to begin by conducting an immediate straw vote. Rather, I encourage you not to take any votes before you've had completed a careful and thorough collective view of all the evidence. At this point, I want to remind you of an important issue that I raised with you at the beginning of this trial. I told you that our system of justice depends on judges like me and jurors like you being able and willing to make careful and fair decisions. All people deserve fair and equal treatment in our system of justice, regardless of their race, national origin, religion, age, ability, gender, sexual orientation, education, income level, or any other personal characteristic. I also pointed out that we all have our own built-in expectations and assumptions, even if we are not conscientiously aware of them. And I talked about some of the ways we can try to deal with them. First, slow down. Do not rush to a decision. Hasty decisions are the most likely to reflect stereotypes or hidden biases. Take time to consider all the evidence. Second, as you start to draw conclusions, consider what evidence, if any, supports the conclusions you are drawing and whether any evidence casts doubt on those conclusions. Double check whether you are actually using unsupported assumptions instead of the evidence. Third, as you think about the people involved in this case, consider them as individuals rather than as members of a particular group. Fourth, I might ask myself, would I view the evidence differently if the people were from different groups, such as different racial, ethnic, or gender identity groups? Fifth, listen to your fellow jurors. They may have different points of view. If so, they may help you determine whether you are focusing on the facts or making assumptions, perhaps based on stereotypes. Of course, your fellow jurors could be influenced by their own unstated assumptions, so don't be shy or hesitant to speak up. You should participate actively, particularly if you think the other jurors are overlooking or undervaluing evidence you find important. In fact, when you explain your thoughts out loud to other jurors, you are also helping yourself to focus on the evidence instead of assumptions. If you use these strategies, then you will do your part to reach a decision that is as fair as humanly possible, and that is your responsibility as jurors. Now, during the course of your deliberations, you might have a question concerning the law in this case. Perhaps I said something you did not understand. If you have any questions, please feel free to bring them to my attention by writing a note dated and signed by the foreperson and sending it to me by way of the court officers. I'm not suggesting for a minute that you have to have questions, but if you do, that's the process. Because your role as the jury is to determine the facts in this case, I cannot answer any questions you have concerning the facts of the case. I have no role in this case when it comes to deciding what the facts are. Neither is it possible for me to provide you with a transcript of the testimony. If you send a question to me, I'll respond after consulting with the lawyers. Please do not ask a court officer or anyone else to answer any questions concerning anything material to the case. Generally, we will not answer a question or take a verdict from 1 o'clock till 2 o'clock, but I think you've all waited so long to get this case, I think we can change that. But the court staff needs a luncheon break. You'll have lunch brought in to you, and you can decide whether or not you want to stop your deliberations during lunch or continue and deliberate. At the end of the day, if you're still deliberating, I'll send in a note asking if you want to continue deliberating or break for the day and return the next morning. Don't tell anyone, including me, how the jury stands numerically or otherwise on the questions before you until such time as you've reached a unanimous verdict. You are going to notice shortly that the court officers are going to take an oath, and you will hear from that they too, as well as all other persons, are forbidden to communicate in any way or manner with any member of this jury on any subject touching on the merits of this case. Remember that the decision of the jury must be unanimous, and the foreperson should be certain that each member of the jury is in complete agreement with the verdict on each indictment. After the final vote of the jury, the foreperson should check the appropriate boxes as to each charge, then sign and date the verdict forms and notify the court officer when you've reached a unanimous verdict. You will then be brought back into the courtroom where the foreperson will deliver the verdicts. This will be the last time I'm going to see counsel at sidebar, but I'm required to see counsel at sidebar.
May I?
Yes.
Could the juror sitting in seat number 13 step down and take your place as an alternate? Could the juror sitting in seat number 7 step down and take your place as an alternate? Juror 6, could you step down and take your place as an alternate? Juror 17, could you step down and take your place as an alternate? Juror 2, could you step down and take your place as an alternate? And Juror 8, could you step down and take your place as an alternate?
All right.
In the court office?
Yes, please do.
Could I have the court officers raise your right hands? Do you swear that you will keep this jury and alternates in some separate but convenient place until they agree that you not suffer any person to speak to them, nor speak to them yourselves, nor ask them if they agree, nor suffer them to disperse until they have discharged their verdict, except by further order of the court, so help you God? Thank you.
All right, so members of the jury, I need not remind you that you have an important responsibility, but I believe that you will bring to bear all the wisdom and the judgment and conscience that you possess in reaching your verdict in this case. All that we can expect from you is that you decide the case with integrity and with principle. We all expect you to reach an impartial verdict dictated by your logic, without bias, without prejudice or sympathy, and not prompted by any facts except those that you've heard here in court during the trial. We are looking for impartial judgment dictated by your reasoning and the fullest discharge of your oaths as jurors. You may retire and deliberate your verdict.
Jurors, make sure you take your notebooks with you, please.